Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I've been doing a lot of revisiting a lot of the stuff that happened in the Great Depression, how it started, how it came about, and how people kind of made it through. So today we're talking about 10 lessons that we learned from the Great Depression. Stay with me. What's up, warriors? It's Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training, here to share with you some warrior skills and drills that anyone can learn and everyone should know. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and thanks for stopping by. If you already follow us on social media, and that's how you found your way over to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button and the little thing where it says all notifications, so YouTube will let you know when the next video drops, and you get all sorts of cool content from here as well. Alright, so about a month or so ago, we did a video on Great Depression grocery list or food list or something like that. And I kind of just went through a lot of the groceries that I remember my grandparents having in their pantry. Now, they were little kids during the Great Depression, but they grew up, I guess, kind of during the Great Depression. So my grandmother just passed away about 6 months ago at 96. My grandfather just turned 98 yesterday or the day before. And now they were, my grandmother was the youngest of 6 kids. My grandfather was the second youngest of 7 kids. So I was just asking him the other day, like, what was your first job? And he's like, I remember I worked in a store, kind of like, I guess, stocking shelves in a grocery store at around 10 years old, which was right around, I guess, 1933-ish or something like that. So again, as a young kid, you know, watching your parents go through the Great Depression and watching your older siblings all have to get jobs and being 8 or 9 or 10 years old and having to get a job wherever you could to bring in whatever money you could to help your family get by. And there were a lot of lessons that they kind of grew up on that never left them. So not just like, you know, stocking up and being prepared and having certain, like, you know, frugal with their money and stuff, but there were just, like, I guess, a ton of life lessons that I learned a lot that were kind of handed down to me, but I'll never understand it the way they understood it, and it'll probably never, like, I hope, never, like, be burned into me the way it was burned into them. You know, like, I'll be a little bit like, let's just order out tonight, or let's go catch that movie, or, you know, a lot of little things, especially with money, where I think I'm a little frugal, but, you know, where I work a lot. I want to enjoy my family and my kids, and I don't know, and do stuff, and I don't want to be, like, so frugal that we don't do anything. But a lot of those lessons, they have to do with money, not just money, but we're going to get into it today, and stick with me. All right, now this top 10 list, I'm sure that a lot of the subscribers that came over from a lot of the other Great Depression stuff we've been doing, and a lot of the prepper stuff that we've been doing, you know, if you're older than I am and you remember it better than I do, or you're closer to the people of that generation, like the video on the Great Depression food list, man, it got so many views and so many comments, and I learned so much just by reading your comments. So again, if I'm missing anything, just feel free to chime in, add in. If you got questions, ask. You know, I like history, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know nearly as much history as I used to. I just kind of pick and choose what I want to read up on lately. So the first lesson from the Great Depression was to stock up ahead of time. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm sure you could stock up on, but you know, having my grandma just pass away a while back and kind of going through some of her stuff and seeing, like, how she, man, her pantry is full, like, stocked up on dry goods, which we talk about all the time, the rice, the beans, the pasta, the sugar, the salt, you know, spices and stuff like that, canned goods, tons and tons of canned goods. But she's stocked up on a lot of stuff. Like, Grammy, if she got a toaster that she liked, she bought 2 of them, because she said, they don't make them like they used to, and one day when I want another one, I'll be looking back and say they didn't make it like this, so I bought 2 of them. And we're going to get to, like, the want versus need, but when she needed something, she made sure she had it, and if she had, like, really liked it, she'd make sure she had a spare, because back then they were thinking 2 is 1, 1 is none, just like we talk about with the survival training and all the prepping. Stocking up is like, man, she has that cookie tin, you know, with all the, like, the thread and the needles and the thimble and sewing stuff. And Grampy with his tools and screws and bolts and nuts and washers, and just like, I could go there and ask them, hey, do you have a, and they probably have it. They probably got more than one. And it wasn't just like, man, stuff that they use in the kitchen all the time, tin foil or aluminum foil, whatever you call it, where you're from, saran wrap and containers and jars and bottles and all sorts of stuff. But the idea of stocking up and making sure that you had stuff so that when you need it, you have it. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That kind of takes us into lesson 2. And one of the things that I remember my grandparents always talking about is learning the importance of repurposing stuff. So very rarely did they have some sort of like disposable anything or single-use anything. Everything they had, including the aluminum foil or aluminium, depending on where you live, foil, man, they reused a lot of stuff. So my mom was saying, hey, if there's any stuff from, Grammy and Grampy's that you want, and my grandfather's still good, but, there's a lot of stuff that he's not going to use anymore. And one of the things is they would make coffee, like on the stove, and then they're not going to drink the whole pot, so they would pour it into these big jars that I think used to be instant coffee. I don't know what used to be in these jars, but the glass jars with a metal screw top lid. And to me, that's like, I just remember they made coffee, they'd pour whatever they didn't drink, went in these jars, and the jars go in the fridge, and then they would take it from the fridge, reheat it on the stove, because they didn't have a microwave, and reheat it. Now these jars, they bought the jar, I don't know, 20, 30 something years ago, and they're still using this thing. Talk about repurposing something and not throwing stuff out. Hey, do you have a container for this or a Tupperware that? Like, Tupperware? No, we don't use that. So my grandfather, like, you needed a piece of lumber or a piece of like sheet metal, or I remember him helping me build, I've moved my martial arts school several times, and we always had to like turn it into a dojo. So we'd move in if there were existing walls. He'd say, don't just wreck everything. Let's peel the sheetrock and see what's in there. Maybe there's some good lumber in there. And oftentimes we were able to reuse, whether it was wood or metal building materials, to kind of reuse it and keep the cost down. And that was their mentality. It's like, whoa. Do you know how much lumber costs right now? And that's when I thought it was cheap, but he thought it was expensive. Learning how to repurpose stuff like old clothes. Everybody had hand-me-downs, right? Old clothes like, hey, your jeans have a hole in it. Well, I have an old pair of jeans that I didn't throw out. I saved it so we could patch up your pants. Let me get my sewing kit and just repurpose. Like, there's got to be some other thing that we could do with this thing. Don't just throw it out. They even used roller skates. If you ever look back into like, I guess like the 50s, probably the 40s too, when they would take these like wooden planks, and they would take old roller skates and take the wheels of the roller skates and put them on the bottom of this plank, and then they'd take a crate and some handles on top, and they would make scooters out of old roller skates. Lesson 3, and this is a hard one for a lot of people, at least in the United States, I would assume worldwide: staying debt-free. If you have no debt, aside from like your home mortgage or even a car payment, if you can keep your debt to like a mortgage and a car payment, or you don't even have a car payment and you just have your mortgage, you are so far ahead of so many other people on the globe. It's so easy to like, buy today's stuff with tomorrow's money. But if you saw like the stock market crash, and then you saw like the news was like, oh, don't worry, it's not that bad, and then it got worse. Like, oh, it's going to correct itself, and then it got worse again. And then all of a sudden, like, they say a recession is when your neighbor loses their job, and a depression is when you lose your job. Now, all of a sudden, you have no money coming in. Now, if you had no debt, it's scary enough to not have money coming in to pay for the things you need today. But if you have no money coming in, and you have to worry about paying for the things that you need today, and you still haven't yet paid off the things that you bought already, that you were like using today's money for stuff you bought last month, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's scary stuff. So my grandparents were really big on, if you don't have the money to buy it, you don't buy it. In fact, you want to buy that thing, you should save up till you have enough money to buy it twice. Don't get into debt. Don't get into debt. Lesson 4, the difference between want and need. I think the easy times have made it very easy for us to think that we need a lot of stuff, when I don't think we really need a lot of the things that we think we need. Hey, it's very easy to look at something that you really, really want and feel like you really, really need it. But do you? Like, Hey, I listen to Dave Ramsey. It's a financial guy. If you never listen to him, give him a listen. He's great. And he gives a lot of that same tough love lessons that my grandparents always gave me. And hey, you might want that really fancy car, but do you need it? No, you need something that'll get you to and from work. There's like really, really high-end expensive stuff. There's really like, moderate stuff. You get what you can afford. And, it's not just with cars, it's with clothing and gadgets and stuff. We're just surrounded by stuff. You probably have ads popping up right now while you're watching this thing trying to sell you stuff. And most of that stuff is not stuff that you need. It's probably stuff that the computer hears you talking about and it shows you and flashes in front of your face. And then like, oh, I want that. I need that. And, if you really had no money, you'd be way more selective. And I feel like me personally, again, there's been plenty of times where I bought stuff, like, oh, I got the money. And then later on down the road, I spent money on whatever thing it was, a guitar, vacation or something. And then, the boiler goes or something on the car breaks. And I'm like, oh my God, I just had that money and I blew it on whatever instead of saving it for the rainy day. Again, just kind of examining before you go spend money. And I need to take my own advice. Don't let me sound like I have this all under control. But taking a moment to ask yourself, do I really need this or do I just really want it and think I need it? Taking that moment to see if you want it or need it, that alone, if you were to take all the money that not you, me, we, everybody, all of us in general, spend on impulse buys, and the things that we thought we really needed or we just really had to have or really, really wanted, whether it was to keep up with the Joneses or whatever, if we were to take that money and instead of like spending it on that impulse thing, saved it for a rainy day, how much money would we have like stocked up in the bank or, in your investments or whatever? Which takes us to lesson number 5, save for a rainy day. So Grammy said, hard times can come anytime. And again, middle United States just got crazy tornadoes that leveled a bunch of it really ruined a lot of people's homes and everything. People died, and hey, the day before everything was fine, and all of a sudden, natural disaster, hurricane, tornado, blizzard, wildfire, they happen all over the world all the time, where everything is fine until all of a sudden it's not. And that hard time comes without any notice, and that's a pretty scary thing. Now, if you don't have insurance and you have tons of debt and you don't have any money saved up, what do you do? So Grammy, man, I could think of when I had hard times, and she was always able to kind of help me out, bail me out, all that stuff. Just like catch me when I fell so many times. And the lesson was, look, I'm glad that I'm here and able to do it. And I'm glad that you didn't fall so hard that I couldn't help you. But I want you to understand is that one day I want you to be able to not just help yourself, but help your kids and, God willing, your grandkids too. And the way to do it is I didn't start saving like this today or yesterday. This has been my whole life. And you need to kind of adopt that idea or philosophy of every time you get a paycheck, whether it's, babysitting job, side gig, your Social Security, whatever money comes your way, you take 10% of it and you hide it from yourself for down the road. And you just learn to live on that other 90%. You don't kind of spend what you have to and then hope there's enough money left to save on the side. And again, don't let me sound like I have all the answers, because I spent a lot of years doing it wrong, and I'm just, the last handful of years I've been correcting it, and I'm so sorry that I didn't do it sooner. But that 10%, it just starts to add up, and before you know it, you have what now? I got some money here. What should I do with this? And then you put it into something else so that it'll grow, and you kind of learn to live on that other 90%, where if you do it right away, and you do it all the time, and you never miss, and you're consistent with it, it's pretty amazing what happens. And that takes us into lesson number 6. Learning how to take that 10% that you save, and when it turns into something and you're going to invest it in something else so that it'll grow, instead of just hey, you leave it in your pillow, which a lot of Great Depression, people, they're like, no, we don't put it in the banks. And no, we don't put it in the stock market. No, we leave it under the bed. But right now we're looking at hyperinflation. So you hold money in your hand and it's losing value like day to day right now. So, you know, again, I'm no financial guy. I leave it to professionals, and oftentimes I don't even really, I understand, but I don't completely understand, which is why I have them doing it for me. But put it in stuff that will grow, hopefully faster than inflation and hyperinflation. But it's not all in one thing. So it's not like just in, you know, tech stuff, or not just in like, you know, I don't know what stuff, but it's not just, it's diversified. So real estate stuff, and, you know, Grammy also had a lot of things that she had bought over time around the house, things of value like statues and knickknacks and jewelry and gold. And she was very good at shopping on sale and being frugal about stuff, but using the money kind of wisely, so that the things that she kind of was accumulating, that there was some money in the bank, there was some money in, like, I guess, annuities or whatever investment vehicles they were using. But going through her house right now, like, she's got a lot of like grandfather clocks and just stuff that's valuable. And I'm like, how'd she do it? With only my grandfather working and her managing the money. And he was the mule and she was the brains. He's got plenty of brains too, but he just came home, handed her the check, and she was like a magician that made it all work. But it is of supreme importance to diversify, so that if one industry tanked or one thing tanked, that you don't lose it all. And that was, you know, obviously, if you lost your whole life savings, or your parents did, or your family did, and you know, those are lessons. Getting burned that bad are lessons that you won't soon forget, you know. Lesson number 7 is learn how to stretch the dollar. And we talk about this on the channel all the time. Learning how to shop on sale, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, learning how to use coupons. And I wish I knew more about that extreme couponing stuff, because you know, I follow some of those pages on like social media and stuff, and when I see what people get for, like, sometimes they come home with, like, you know, 3-4 shopping carts worth of stuff, and it cost them $5, $10, because they knew how to use coupons and match the coupon with the sale. And I don't have that kind of time. The people that I know that have done that, they say that it's been pretty much a full-time job to be able to do that. But learning how to just shop on sale and price versus value. My grandparents, same thing. They were big on, listen, if I'm going to buy something, I don't mind spending a little bit extra money, but I want to get a quality product. And that quality product better have some sort of guarantee or warranty that if something happens to it, you'll make good on that. So, like, her refrigerator would last like 30 years. I had my refrigerator like 5 years, and the fix-it guy's been here probably 5 times. Granted, they don't make it like they used to, but again, my grandparents did not have a microwave. When they moved into their house, they had the dishwasher taken out because it took up valuable cabinet space, and the dishwasher doesn't wash the dishes nearly as good as I do. These are Grammy's words, not mine. And no call waiting, no answering machine, no, trying to think, man. It was like, I don't know, the 50s in that house. They finally got cable so Grampy could watch the ball games. That's pretty cool. But again, learning how to really stretch the dollar. You know, there were a lot of things that they felt, I don't really need that, so that would be nice, but we don't need that. We're going to save our money. Being frugal with the air conditioning and the heating. Being frugal with, like, vacations, no eating out. Just learning how to, like, really, really stretch that dollar so that you learn to live on way less and you get used to it. And that's just those are your habits. And those habits become very conducive to, one, saving money to help you save for the rainy day, which lets you invest your money for other stuff and let that money grow. That my grandfather's 98 years old and he's like in an old folks home that's pretty nice. It's crazy expensive, but thank God that they saved the way that they did and that he had a pension from his job, and he's able to be in a good spot, again, from following a lot of these habits. Lesson number 8, learn to do things for yourself. So I can't tell you how many times my grandfather's like, you don't pay somebody to mow your lawn, do you? You could do that yourself. You know, learning how to, like, fix stuff, build stuff, having, you know, a set of tools and knowing how to use them, being able to do like basic home improvement stuff that if you had to pay somebody to come in, you're paying really for the labor or however much it's going to cost to buy the materials times 3. My grandmother could cook anything, sew anything, make anything, clean anything. It was just like really, really impressive. She could clean anything with some Brillo or a sponge or a rag and some basic, like, baking soda, vinegar, and I don't know, you guys are probably better at that than I am, so put that down in there because, again, it'll teach me and it'll teach everybody else. My grandfather got a toolbox he just brought everywhere. Every time I broke a hole in the wall at home, practicing karate or something, or fighting with my sister or something, Grandpa, you got to get over before my mom comes home, please. And he'd come over and I'd learn how to fix a hole in the wall with him. But he could fix anything. You'd break something and bring it to him, and he would crazy glue it back together. He had a thing for everything, and nothing expensive. Stuff that he had in the garage or stuff that he had in his workshop. But learning how to do stuff for yourself. That, again, if you had no money and you had really hard times and you needed to get stuff done, obviously if you don't know how to do that stuff, maybe you could trade or barter. Like, I know how to do this, if you know how to do that. My father used to, we had a neighbor who was good with like lawn stuff, and my dad was not. And the neighbor wasn't good with like automotive stuff, and my dad was like, a mechanic that could, do anything to a car with his eyes closed. So that was their barter. The guy would do our lawn, and my dad would, maintain the guy's cars, and that they made it work. They were buddies. They helped each other out, and it was a good thing. So it was, if you couldn't do it for yourself, you find somebody that can do something for you, but what can you do for them in return? It's good to have some skills, and it's never too late to learn those skills. Helping each other out takes us to lesson number 9, which is be friends with your neighbors, know your neighbors, and have like a good network of friends. So I know when we get a crazy snowstorm, we all help each other shovel out. Who's got a snowblower? Who's got a shovel? Who's got like some, ice melt or sand or whatever? And everybody helps everybody. I think of like when Superstorm Sandy hit, everybody was helping everybody. And that shouldn't be like it takes a crisis to make that happen. That's just something like my grandparents grew up in Brooklyn, and, they said, all the parents knew all the kids, and all the kids knew all the parents. And, if anybody's mom yelled at you or told you to behave yourself and watch your mouth and mind your manners, you did it. And, and your mom would be the one telling some other kid to do it, and they better listen too. And if not, well, that it takes a village. And it doesn't just take a village to raise a child. It takes a village to run a village. So, knowing your neighbors and having some sort of network and good, like, rapport with them. And we talk about that I have a video on, like, the 5 Ds of home defense, which is really important stuff, too, especially, with crazy times going on. Like, just knowing how to keep your house and yourself and your family safe. And there's some pretty simple principles to follow. And one of them is having a good network of like knowing your neighbors, that you kind of like look out for each other. Hey, there was a van in front of your house today. Were you having work done? Or, just giving each other a heads up and being there to like, hey, could I borrow a cup of sugar? Could I borrow a cup of milk? Could I borrow a stick of butter? Could I borrow your toolbox? I'm fixing something. And you don't want to go over there when you don't know them. You want to know them so that you kind of look out for each other, help each other. And it's a good vibe to go outside and have friends around you, Even if you're not that social, it's a good idea to start making some friends with your neighbors. And lesson number 10 is protect what's yours. We used to say Grampy's grumpy and Grammy's a ray of sunshine. Now, even though that sweet, cute little Italian Grammy was the sweetest thing, she had a feisty side in there, man. And, I remember them telling me stories about good people doing bad things. And when I was young, I didn't totally understand it. And when they would explain it to me, they'd say, well, sometimes when things are really tough and people have a hard time, finding food for their kids or feeding their family or, keeping a roof over their head or making their bills and stuff like that, sometimes good people are driven to do bad things. Even if it's a good person doing a bad thing, you don't want them to do the bad thing to you. So they were big on, man, lock your doors, lock the windows, lock the car. Just a lot of street smarts about, not if you're going to count your money, you don't count it in the open. If you're going to, you buy something nice, you don't throw the box out the next day. You kind of like discard, like cut the box into pieces so that you're not putting like, oh, we just got a flat screen TV over at, at my house, and I'm going to put the thing outside the street, and then, the people drive up and down the block. I'm a cop now, so I get it, but just having some sort of plan and have some sort of smarts to like prevent the bad thing from happening to you and your house and your family. Having some sort of like plan, like, oh my God, well, we keep everything locked, but if somebody came in, and my grandparents weren't gun people at all, but Grammy had that rolling pin and that knife she used to cook dinner. And again, having some sort of like means of defending yourself, your family, and really that's what's most important, is your family. there's that saying, we had everything except for money. You talk to people who are from the Great Depression, and you'll often hear we had everything except for money. And they had each other, they had friends, they had neighbors, they found a way to get by with food, they had a way to get by with bills, they got a way to do without, and those really hard times made strong people. And the strong people were what eventually made the good times, and unfortunately good times, it's a cycle, create weak people, and the weak people create hard times, and so on and so on. We've brought on a lot of new subscribers to the channel of all different ages. So I know, like, if you're here for the martial arts, it's more of a younger crew. If you're here for the firearms training, that's like younger to middle crew. But a lot of the people that are here for preparedness, you guys are all ages. And there's a lot of the subscribers that, if you're new to the channel, 5 elements we cover: self-defense, home defense, firearms training, emergency preparedness, wilderness and urban survival, gear reviews, warrior mindset. There's a lot of cool legs to the channel. But if you ask me, the greatest thing to the channel is the subscribers, because every video there's just so much knowledge, and it's really growing. And the stuff that you guys bring in and put in the comments, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. I know I say it all the time, but it's I really, really appreciate it. Like, I can't thank you enough for that. So again, if you know more lessons than I'm talking about, or you got anything to add to it, please put it in the comments below. Well, if you made it this far and you like what I'm teaching and preaching, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and like this video. If you're loving it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you gotta have it, make sure you hit the bell notification button and the little thing where it says all notifications, so YouTube will let you know when the next video drops. If you're really digging it and you want more, you can find me on all social media platforms at 5 Elements Tactical. That's all I got for now, warriors. So until our paths cross again, pray for the best, prepare for the rest. I'm Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training. Thanks for watching.